Wednesday, so it's a few minutes after 2 o'clock. Welcome everybody. The idea of this is just to hear some stories of people who graduated relatively recently in all your cases, and just hear what your path was after grad school, where it ended up. This is open for questions. I'll probably ask some, and ask follow-up questions and stuff as you guys go along. But first, we'll just go one by one and have you guys kind of describe what your degree was and what job you are in now. Okay, you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. My name is Emma Link. I graduated with a master's degree in, I think, like January of 2023. And I studied soil science with Jessica Connect, and also Jake Younger's in agronomy, looking transit systems. And now I work in the job that I got after I graduated. I work for an organization called Practical Farmers of Iowa, which is based in Ames, but I work remotely from Minneapolis. And I help run a farmer-directed on-farm research program. I work with like all sorts of farmers to run research trials.
And I appreciate that you did more than just tell me whether you got an MS or a PhD. I did mean like in what topic also, if that wasn't clear.
My name is Luis Allen. I use he, him pronouns, and I graduated in 2022 under Dr. Melissa Wilson, studying manure management and water quality. And at that time in 2022, I got a job at the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency in the petroleum remediation program. And so I'm an environmental specialist dealing with petroleum contamination in different sites throughout the state, the entire state. That's the work that I do. Yeah.
I am Allison Serakos Jeneson, and I graduated August 2019 under Dr. Peter Snyder. And let's see, I am currently at bar engineering right now in Duluth. And the work that I do is mostly related to air impact analysis, greenhouse gas accounting, and climate analysis.
And was that related to your thesis pretty closely, or your dissertation, or no?
Yes and no. The climate parts, yes. The air impact analysis was I pulled a lot from the class that I had with Dr. Dylan Malay. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, some background in it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I guess another sort of round robin question, is this the job each of you wanted when you started your degree with LAS? You can start.
No, I didn't think I would kind of end up in air quality. I wanted to work more in agriculture, do seasonal forecasting for agriculture. But I had ties in Duluth, and there's not a whole lot of agriculture in Duluth. So yes, got kind of more into the air quality route.
But it was kind of a question of like topic preference versus location preference. Yeah. What about you, Lisa? Where you wanted to be?
I actually was. I remember celebrating with Dr. Wilson when I got the job because I was not graduated yet from here. It was like I got the job in January 2022, and then I graduated in March. And I just remember celebrating Dr. Wilson the job, and like it was just amazing, and I couldn't believe it. I had a 1-year internship prior to that with Hennepin County, and in a similar area that I am now, and so I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. Yeah.
Okay, that internship was before grad school then?
Yes, it was before grad school, and also the degree that I have, it really goes into, what I am using there at work right now is what I actually studied and learned. Like I remember with the first 6 months of my job, I was referred to Dr. Goodconnect's notes on microbiology and I saw respiration. And then like Dr. Mueller's groundwater hydrology, and it's just like, it's just like, it was really awesome. Yeah.
Okay, so you had some experience before your master's, but then your master's really did to help you feel better prepared for the field that you ended up in.
Yeah.
What about you, Emma? Did you end up where you thought you would when you started your degree?
I had no idea that a job like my job existed.
Right.
But
why
when
not have?
it really doesn't. But I saw the job posting and I was like, yep, that's what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. While you were in your degree program, did any of you do things to try to make yourself more ready for the career that you're in? Like besides just, passing Dr. Gutenek's class and Dr. Mullen's class, were you, actively pursuing other sort of, professional development things that have helped you now?
I remember being heavily involved with the career advisors here. I used them a lot and they really helped me with just resume review and cover letter review and things like that. I also did a lot of networking, so picked the brains of the professors that were in similar fields, or even the climate office downstairs, to kind of start building networks and seeing who I can talk to about just different positions, what's out there, things like that.
It was actually very similar with me. I spent a lot of time doing mock interviews with career services and also networking specifically with people at Hennepin County who knew people at NPCA. It was that kind of networking.
That's specific.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like it's much easier to do networking if you know what you're doing it for, right? The sort of idea of going to a conference and doing some networking is a little bit hard to enact, but when you have a specific goal, it's a little different. It sounds like you really did. What about you? Did you do any career services?
It didn't, and I probably should have. I started in 2020, so I got through grad school. Yay.
Yeah. What about, so you did this networking work, did you each get the first job you applied for? It almost sounds like you did. No, okay. So you guys are both applying before you finished school. Talk about the timeline that you thought about as you were approaching the end of your degree or as you were thinking about your next stages. How early were you applying for new jobs?
I was applying about 6 months earlier, and I actually had a total of, I think I had 11 applications. Out of those 11 applications, I had 6 interviews, and then I just got the one job. I got denied on the other 5. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was things that were very similar to each other. So I wanted to go into either feedlots at NPCA, or I wanted to go into stormwater management or things that related to soil and water contamination rather than air. That was where my experience was, is mostly soil and water. Mhm.
Did you apply for a few jobs?
I don't remember applying for any jobs before I finished. I was busy enough with writing. Yeah, I guess I'll say that was my plan, though. I kind of knew that I wasn't gonna be able to juggle multiple things, so I was saving money so that I could afford to not work for a bit. But obviously not everyone can do that.
Yeah, but that's a good context. It's a lot.
And I did not get the first job I applied for. I think I got the job offer in mid-April. I finished it until January.
Yeah, so you have a little downtime there. I guess I'm also curious when you guys think about the transition from grad school to your work life, what has been the biggest difference in terms of what your work day feels like or looks like, or your work week, let's say, compared to when you were working away at your own project in grad school?
I would say more frequent deadlines. And just, I guess at Bar Engineering, since we're project focused, working on a lot of different types of projects, not just focusing in one area, but focusing on climate, greenhouse gases, maybe some water resources work, maybe some air emissions inventory work. So a lot of different types of work, instead of just one focus thing.
What kind of clients do you have usually?
We serve mostly heavy industry, so mining, manufacturing, fuels, power, and then some public clients.
Okay, and are you bouncing among clients within a
I
given week?
am, I am, but not everybody is like that, just because I kind of am more specialized in in my, at bar, that's why I serve multiple different clients in a specialty where some people serve just one sector like mining. And then that's all they focus on.
Yeah, so mostly that, lots of things to do instead of one big thing.
Right.
What about you?
Yeah, so I would say that I'm from the land and atmospheric science program, and that is a very structured program, right? Like my graduate degree goes from here to here to here. These are my milestones, and I have a plan and a deadline for each of those milestones. It's very, very I wouldn't say easy, but like you know where your deadlines are at least, you know.
I was gonna say, not every graduate student
Right.
does.
I'm a very good advisor, right?
Great.
I had an amazing advisor.
Yeah.
And, and
Yeah,
so-
he was particularly organized. Yeah.
And at work, you know, at work I have over 100 sites to my name,
Yeah.
contaminated sites. And the priorities sometimes are like, what happened yesterday? Like, you know, it's like, oh, there was this huge release. And actually this morning I couldn't go to the lunch because we had an emergency, you know, and it's like, okay, well, I have to drop everything to tend to this emergency that we do. And so your deadlines are kind of more like malleable and they move around sometimes. And also just like the communication that you have to do with different people. So in here, if I had to do a presentation about my work, I could tailor it to my audience, but at the MPCA, I had to have like different types of customers that I call my customer, which is either going to be a coworker of mine, or it's going to be a consultant, an external consultant who is doing work for me, or it's going to be a member of the public, and like it's just like, but it's the same topic, but different people in the same table, and it's just like I have to go back and forth, you know,
Yeah.
and we're different communication styles, basically. You like I have different communication styles with people.
And have you found that stimulating, this feeling that like sometimes there's an emergency and you have to take care of it, and like, do you like that kind of interruption, or do you wish we still had this nice structured, like goal oriented?
Yeah, I prefer structure to be honest. I'm very organized, I would say, like but sometimes being very organized can also, you know, it's an asset and also not, because like then when something comes up, you have to be ready for whatever comes. Yeah. Mhm.
So do you work with consultants at like Allison at Bar or something like that?
Yeah.
So then tell me about like, what's the role of the scientist at the state agency versus the scientist who's at the consulting, at the engineering?
Yeah.
Because you guys, you know, could have come through the same training, but then you have this different role in a project. Tell me about that.
Yes, so for me, if I feel that the consultant who is doing the work at the site, because I don't do the work at the site, but I oversee the work at the site. And so what happens is my hope is that the consultant is seeing our mission, which our mission is to protect the environment and human health, right? And so I want to ensure that the consultant has that mission in place when they start their work. However, there are also times when the consultant has the client's interest in mind. And so I feel like I am there to balance that out. Like because cleaning up contamination or seeing where the contamination is going to, or what receptors we have that could be a situation for concern, you know, I really rely on the consultant to tell me what those are, because I'm not in the field. Mhm.
Allison, what would you add?
Yeah, that was a good response. You know, oftentimes we are representing our clients. And so we have our client's best interest, but it's not like our client's best interest is oftentimes different from the state. It's usually the same. And then there are often times where we will be consultants of the state too. And so it's sort of for us, we need to understand who we're working for. Is it the state or is it our client? Is it an industry person? And that really kind of dictates what kind of hat we wear in, I guess, the conversation between the three. Yeah.
That's really an interesting difference, I think. It almost sounds like you feel like, Louise, like you're more kind of directing the planned action, right? Or making sure that you're communicating your needs really effectively, and maybe the scientist at the firm is thinking more about like executing something according to, is that fair characterization or? No.
I would say they are my eyes.
Yeah.
Feel, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there has to be some trust in there as well. And so we've been really lucky that we have, consultants that go through a contract with BCA have to have certain certifications and, things they go through. And so, I trust that process. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say too, there's often times where we're also educating the state too. Either just with the scientific knowledge, or also as well as like the site knowledge, the client's knowledge.
I agree with that.
How do you feel about your role as a scientist within this farmer-led organization? Is there a lot of scientists? Do you feel like you're one of the few, or how is the scientist seen there?
Yeah, so I work in a department where there are 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 of us. But there's only 2 other people who are working on the on-farm farmer-directed research program that I work on. However, like there are a lot of people in my organization who have a lot of scientific training. They just like aren't doing research. They're crop advisors. They're running programs that are cost share programs for people to implement sustainable farming practices. And I really like my job because I am talking with farmers all the time. Like I would say that probably 1 to 2 hours of my day every day are answering emails and phone calls from the farmers that I work with. And they really trust us as sources of information, and I also really trust them as sources of information. So it's way more of a reciprocal relationship than I think a lot of other maybe like university scientific positions are. And I really like that. I also work with a lot of farmers who have masters and PhDs, either in the field that they're working in or in another field. So I like often if I'm emailing someone who's new, I am like looking at their LinkedIn to see what their education is. So I'm not explaining, like I literally once explained to someone who has a PhD in computer science how to access our shared workbook. So I think that's a really like unique part of my job, is that I'm really helping people who are curious and want to be applying their curiosity to their farming practices and helping them like execute that.
Yeah, that's interesting. It sounds like one thing you guys all 3 have in common is feeling like you can be a resource for somebody who's asking a question way or another. So I do feel like that's a goal of going to grad school. I know one of my first reasons to go to grad school was that I was like, I think I want to be one of the people in the room who knows how to answer this question. So it sounds like you guys have all gotten yourselves into rooms where you can helpfully answer questions. Are there questions from the group about these guys' trajectory or what their jobs are like?
I had a question, well, and selfishly, it's a question I've always had for you, Emma, also, but like for the 2 of you, like being in a place, like you were in Duluth, and I think Emma, you wanted to stay here. So what was it like to try to look for a job, and you've even chosen like a very remote job, and I've always been curious how that's going for you, but what is it to choose like where you want to live versus the kind of job that you wanted? Because that's a decision I think a lot of students have to make.
Yeah, I would say that I almost exclusively applied for jobs that would let me stay in the Twin Cities. The job I applied for did say you would have to relocate to central Iowa, and I applied for it anyway, even though I was like, I don't think I would take this if I had to relocate to central Iowa. I just didn't really want to leave my community. And sometimes I'm sad that I don't work with my coworkers. Like I work with a lot of really cool people. And I think I would be friends with a lot of them, but I don't think it affects my ability to be effective in my role. We just have to sort of work around the fact that I work remotely and I can't talk to people in the office. I'm always really happy when I go down there for a couple of days to work, but I'm really happy that I don't live there. It's definitely give and take, and I definitely didn't apply for jobs that I would have been interested in, because I didn't want to move.
For me, when I was looking, the remote work wasn't as big of a thing as it is now. And so that wasn't really like an option even. I don't think it worked. I mean, I think if I pushed it to them, like, oh, I want to work remote, thinking this is like a hypothetical situation, if I lived in Duluth and worked for a company that was elsewhere or something like that, I probably could have pushed that angle if I wanted to, but it is definitely something you need to discern, you know, what you value and in terms of where you want to be and what sort of work-life balance you're looking for. You know, for me, it was really important to be in an office and be in a community. And so I knew that working remotely wasn't going to be something that was fulfilling for a career for me. And so that was really limited by my options, I suppose, when I was looking for jobs. That's something, oh, okay. And so looking in Duluth, it was, yeah, pretty limiting, but and bar engineering was probably the top of my list. So I was fortunate to get that position that I was hoping to get.
Yeah, I don't know if you were tied to Twin Cities or not, Luis, but
I was just so focused on staying here. I mean,
yeah.
I was already married and I already had a house and yeah.
So yeah, what was it? So were you doing kind of the same thing as the other two, just like only applying for jobs?
Yes, definitely, yeah. Yeah, and when I graduated, you know, we were in the middle of the pandemic and remote jobs were more accessible, I would say.
Yeah.
But I didn't look into that very much. I wanted to stay in the community, you know. Mhm.
We have to have a virtual alumni panel to talk to the alumni who prioritize that.
Yeah. Yes, it's interesting. I mean, I feel it, I didn't make that choice. And I live far from my family, and I definitely feel that sometimes.
I'm glad you're here.
Good. Any other questions?
Yeah, I also have a question, how they use, when you guys uses the courses or the learning that you get from the program? Because sometimes I feel a little bit nervous going out there if I have the basic knowledge that I need. Probably you learn most of it in your working place, but I wonder if you have used that directly and apply to your work.
Yeah, I definitely have flipped through some of my textbooks and I definitely use a lot of coding that I learned here. And a lot of, we talked about this in the lunch too, but a lot of more of the skills that you're developing that you don't really think you're developing, such as problem solving, creative thinking, things like that, as you're working through your thesis or dissertation, writing, those skills I use a lot.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I actually still have Dr. Peter Snyder's book that he had us, you know, the atmospheric science book, and I still have it. I love it. For me, I would say we have very foundational courses here that we take. So for me, like the very foundational work was, you know, learning soil science, learning groundwater hydrology, learning microbiology of soils was like really important for my work today. But also things that like Dr. Wilson taught me, you know, was like technical writing and communicating with people of various audiences. So like Dr. Wilson communicates with scientists from NPCA directly, or she communicates with farmers, and like, you know, just like looking at what she does and like learning from that was really important to me.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I also took courses that I didn't think would apply to my job that do. So I have a minor in GIS, and it's not involved in like my job description at all, but there are people at my workplace who do remote sensing work. And so I was on the hiring committee for those people, and they need someone to talk to. I talk to them. And that makes me feel like, oh wow, like I'm happy that I took that coursework, even though maybe outwardly it doesn't look like I use that at all, because it's still like knowledge that's informing my function in my workplace.
Yeah, broaden your ability to contribute.
Yeah.
What about the flip question of like, what's something you had to learn on the job that you could not learn in your degree?
Talking to people. I spent 1 to 2 hours a day talking to farmers every day. Something that I did while I was here, and I was really nervous about it for about 1.5 years, and now I'm like, it's just what I do.
I think going to grad school during the pandemic is even worse for the
Yeah.
ability to communicate with other human beings.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I would say like conflict resolution with like when we have a situation in the field and we don't all agree on what's exactly going on there. It, for me, I always try to go to, okay, what is our precedent? If we have any precedent for a decision that is to be made, what is that precedent? Or, can I call you back later? Can we, because I feel like it's very important that I maintain that relationship with the consultant, for example, because I know we'll be working together in the future as well as this project, right? And so I really want to save that relationship and to be able to continue that relationship.
Those are, good answers. I learned GIS, so I would definitely advise like taking a course in GIS. And Python I learned at the job, but with my prior coding background, it was pretty easy to jump from one program to the next. And Excel, Microsoft Excel, we do a lot of work in that, but a lot of the functions and manipulating data and stuff within Microsoft Excel. It was something that I had to learn a lot on the job.
I'm always trying to get my students out of working in Excel.
I know.
So their data manipulations will be more, logged better in code. That's why. Other questions?
So is there anything that you regret not taking while you were a grad student here or missing out on? It could be a course, a statistics thing, or something like that. Improv class, it sounds like might have been. Or do you have recommendations for our grad program on things that would be good, what you're seeing out there?
I have like two thoughts on this. I think it's good to have courses to like set students up for their careers and stuff, and a lot of it like the soft skills, but I also think it's just wonderful to, you're at this time in your life where you are really focused on your research and the science. And so to have deep classes in the sciences, I think is also really wonderful to have. So I don't know. I see both sides of it. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, for me, I would say I could have been a little more prepared by taking more like policy related courses, because I was very science focused. So like more policy related courses would have been helpful. Like the statute that I'm working with right now, it's like from the early 80s, and like it could be updated, and like we talk about it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know if the soil physics course is offered now, but that was something that was lacking when I was here. And I just read a couple soil physics textbooks to sort of learn that. Wish I hadn't had to do that. And I wish I'd taken a bit more statistics coursework.
Never take too much stats.
No.
I guess, I asked you a little bit about this, Emma, but when you think about sort of the value of your degree within your organization, yeah, so for Louise and Allison, how does having a PhD change what you can do at Bar versus having an MS versus having a BS? Like, what are you gaining with those degree certifications? And maybe same thing at the agency. What kind of jobs do you get that you wouldn't get if you didn't have an advanced degree?
That's a good question. At Bar, it really is the project team specific. Some projects don't really require, MS or PhDs. Others really want to highlight that in proposals. So it really is, I think, like client dependent for me. What does the client want to see? And what, if we want to highlight a certain skill or a certain educational component of the team member. I work with a lot of engineers. And so for me, as being a scientist, it helps my credibility, just within my peers.
Because they have this advanced degree and so they want
Yep.
to see that they have more respect for someone else who also has an advanced degree.
Right, yeah.
That's interesting. You're not really talking about the skills you're getting from an MS or a PhD. You're talking about what you can sell to the client in terms of what it looks like to have a PhD on your team.
Mhm.
That's really interesting. It's not really about that you learned X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, for me, it is very similar in that it depends too. So like I remember when I got my job, the first week that I got my job, I was told by my supervisor that because I have a master's degree, I was going to be the state soil coordinator. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I don't know what that is. And then I had to learn what that was, so that's what they told me I was going to do, and that's what I did. It depends, I think. So like, there are people in my.
But Louise, what is it?
Yeah, so what it is, whenever there is contaminated soil with petroleum, specifically contaminated soil, it could be composted or it could be applied over a soil surface where it's going to decompose over time. And those are the first 6 months of my job where I really went to Dr. Cook's classes about the respiration cycles of different microbes, right? And so that's what I was doing in my first 6 months. It was focusing on that job. And there are project leaders in my group where they have a PhD, and so they get to manage a whole different project that I just cannot because of our degree differences. So like, I could do it, but maybe I need more experience before I can get that job. Mhm.
Is there what about in your organization? Is your degree treated a certain way or not, or?
No, I think that, like, when I think about what career paths are, well, I guess not even career paths. If I think about like how having a master's versus a PhD affects my job, it's mostly like, I'm probably not gonna be the PI on like the larger grants that we apply for. Like, that's always gonna be my supervisor. And I think even if like he were to leave and I would be like the natural, like, I think someone could be in his position with a master's degree, but I think they would probably, as an institution, we would want to have someone in the department who had a PhD, basically just for face value, just to be like, this person with a PhD is the PI on this.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's funny, the things you guys are talking about that you get with the more advanced degree are actually not really more technical. Again, they're just like, you get to have your name on the top. So there you go. If you're considering between a master's and a PhD, it's whether you want your name on the top or not. Other questions out there? Yeah.
So since you already mentioned about job search and how you applied for jobs, like how was the process? How how did it feel emotionally when you were applying for jobs and finishing up everything? So any tips for people who are there now?
How to stay safe while applying for jobs.
It did, yeah.
Super fun.
Yeah, it was stressful. It was a stressful time. And I actually, took the job before I finished my degree. And so, just having the stress of working full-time and trying to do all my writing and prepare for my defense. That was pretty stressful, but, everything works out just how it should be. And I know when you're in the thick of it, you don't think about that, but it really does.
Or you can get a different job if you don't get the right one.
Exactly,
Right?
yeah,
Yeah, even if it doesn't work out the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would express some congruency with Allison career-wise. It was very emotionally challenging. I went to my friends about it. I went to my family about it. I went to Dr. Wilson about it. Sorry. I interviewed 6 different times and I applied for like all these jobs and every time I would get a no. And then it takes a lot of time to get your no. So it takes like over a month sometimes to get your no. And so you're just like thinking about it the whole time. And I would say never ever give up. I think that if you have what they want, sometimes they don't even know that you have what they want. And it's not about you personally. When someone interviews you, it is a 1-hour interview. They will not get to know who you truly are. And so I would say don't ever give up, and you really do have what it takes. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I've blocked out most of this. But now you're reminding me of like interviews where I was like, I thought that went great. Why didn't they ask me that job? I thought I was really qualified. So yeah, it's like, it actually doesn't reflect on you at all. Probably when any of us find ourselves in the place we're in, I don't know.
No, it's helpful to, I think, put that distance there and the sense that the person interviewing you is not making a rational decision either, they're doing the best they can with the information that they have, right? And, it's really not your fault. It doesn't work out. I think the other really terrible thing about job interviewing is that you never know if you're gonna get a better one. If you get an offer, whether to take it or wait for a better one, that one that I've been waiting 3 weeks for, and they're about to call and offer me the job, and that is just inherently horrible. Like, I don't think there's a good way to get around that, balancing those options.
The way to get around that is only getting offered the job that you actually want.
Yes.
Which is
Getting offered your first choice job is the way around it. And your second choice job is this other kind of torture where you're like, I know there's something I want a little more, but should I take this? And there's no perfect answer to that.
But also, there could be a situation where like you got a job that you wanted, but then once you're in, you realize it's not what I told you it was.
So you guys have probably now been on the other side of the table and actually hiring. What has been impressive when you have interviewed people or, talked to new hires? What makes them, stand out in a crowd of applicants? Because there's often a crowd these days.
For me, I have been in several job panels at MPCA. And for me, it's not so much about what they know, but whether they are passionate about our mission, passionate about learning new things, or just like having this willingness to learn.
I think one thing to not forget, I think it's easy to get caught up in, oh, I need a job, I need to get a job, and I'm sending out all these resumes and these applications, but you forget about what would be best for you. And so in like those interview times, to really ask those questions to the interviewer, you're interviewing them as well. And so making sure that's going to be a good fit for you.
Yeah, I so agree with, I've been on hiring panels and the people who you're interviewing don't have any questions about the organization or the job. It's like, have you thought about it more? You know, like, it's okay to have questions. You don't, it wasn't all in the job description, you know, and so being willing to ask questions when you're in that position, I think is really a strength.
Yeah, and I think making it clear that like you've gone beyond reading the job description, like the couple of hiring panels I've been on, it's like very impressive when people like have clearly like read our mission statement as a nonprofit. And they have questions about what's it like to work for a member-based nonprofit. And just showing that like you're like understand the organization or entity that you're applying to work for, and if they're like a mission-driven organization, that you like understand their mission.
Yeah, or if you don't understand.
Or if you
it,
don't,
you're
you're
trying
asking
to
about it.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so show that you're trying to. If you guys could move to a different job, where would you try to go in another lifetime or in another 10 years or something like that? You mentioned one thing, which is wanting to do more forecasting type work. Is that still something you wish you could switch to do something?
Yeah, I think it would be nice to kind of do more ag work. So if I do really like my job, I don't really intend to switch my job, but if I had to, I think maybe I'd pursue that. But knowing that that would be remote would be hard for me, so.
For me, I started as what is called a level 1 specialist, and then now I'm a level 3, and then there's level 4. And I'm really going for level 4 right now. And it's just, for me, I really find my work very, very interesting. And so I just want to get more technical work that is more challenging than what I had the previous year or the previous few months. And so that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Deepening,
Mhm.
than jumping.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that in a different world where jobs in academia were more attractive to me, like I would have gotten a PhD and tried to work at a small liberal arts institution. But the process of doing that just seemed so incredibly daunting and unlikely that I'm glad that I'm doing what I'm doing.
Any more questions?
I got a question in the chat. Could you please share the most significant change or challenge you encountered while transitioning from school to the workplace, and then a piece of advice on how to prepare for the transition?
I think for me, when I transitioned, it was, you're so deep into like one research thing and like one technical thing. And then having to like almost step back from that and put yourself in sort of a position where everything seems a little bit more surface related. But that was really hard for me. And in terms of advice, I don't know. I don't know if I have any advice, just knowing that's a thing, and it's hard, but you're not alone.
For me, it would also be very similar to that. So going to something that is completely different than academia or than graduate school, where graduate school is very structured and your new job has all these different components to it. And so one thing that I would suggest is that you never stop asking questions. Even if you feel like you may be too embarrassed to ask a question, if you can find a few key people in your organization that you could trust and you could go to for questions, I would really encourage you to do that. I feel like I did that a lot, and then I feel like the next hire after me didn't do that very much, and I could see where things went with each of us, in terms of career advancement or things like that. And I feel like you can get stuck sometimes if you don't ask the pertinent questions, and don't be afraid to ask questions, or don't be afraid to look silly, or I think that people understand that we're all human, and we're free to ask those questions.
Yeah, but then coming in ready to just be humble for quite a while. right?
Yes,
As you learn the
absolutely.
ropes, and
Yeah.
it might not be your favorite period of your life,
Mhm.
asking where the copier is every other day, or whatever
Mhm.
stupid question comes up,
Yeah.
but it's important, it just is required to get competence.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think that this is maybe also speaking back to like what you should be looking for when you're interviewing, like figuring out how, like, I think in grad school, right, you have a relationship with an advisor or advisors. And in work, you're gonna have a relationship with a supervisor and then maybe also other people who are training you on how to do things. And I think it's worth having like a fairly frank conversation with them about like, what is your management style? How can we like build this into like a good working relationship? I think that can start at an interview level. Especially if you feel like you have some like flexibility to like really find a workplace that is gonna work well for you. But yeah, in my experience, like working with my supervisor has been like a really rewarding part of having a job, but it was a learning curve to be like, okay, how does this person like want me to report to them? How does this person want me to approach with questions? Learning what their boundaries are and then expressing what your boundaries are and finding some common ground.
That's really good advice to start the transition early.
I'll ask that question. Just because you are all relatively local, all in Minnesota still, and because of the interesting times since graduation for all of you, I'm just interested in how the people a few years ago who were mentors are now more actually colleagues in a sense, and if there has been, if you've seen that switch, or do you still think of them as mentors, and have not bridged that gap yet?
I still think of them as mentors.
I was afraid so.
And I probably will still always think of them as mentors, even if like we're colleagues. Yeah.
It's the same for me, like, you know, like coming back here and then calling Dr. Wilson Melissa, it's like, oh, no, I can't do that. You know, it's like, oh my God, she was an amazing mentor and advisor, and I want to have that respect for that, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing that's been fun is like people that I went to grad school with have jobs now where like we're colleagues, like we were colleagues in graduate school, and now like I can go call Hava and be like, how is your program that you run going?
Yeah,
Like
the
that's
network
pretty
really does.
fun. Yeah. Yeah, and they'll like see names and I'll be like, oh, that's that person.
Yeah, the co-mentorship, people at your same level is also very real and can be very tangible as you're entering into the workforce. Go ahead.
I also have some more technical questions related to negotiation with the person that they're hiring you. I wonder if like about the salary, if you guys have the opportunity to negotiate that, or you just get if your salary, or you love the job, but you know it's somewhat like how that plays into place when you have to choose this work and how you manage it, because sometimes I wonder, oh, if I'm not, maybe I like the job, but I don't like maybe it's not what I'm looking for. And you wonder if you have a chance to negotiate that, or I don't know. That's the most difficult part. When I see it, like how do I say, oh no, it's not what I'm looking for, or something like that. I wonder if you guys have that experience and if you can talk a little bit about that.
Or if you've seen it on the other side from people who are applying, if you didn't negotiate it, yeah, interesting.
Oh, you didn't have the chance at all. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, I negotiated my salary. I think everyone should. If they're offering you the job, they want to hire you. And if you ask for more money, the worst thing they can say is no. They're like, I've never heard of someone asking for more money and then being told, no, we don't want to offer you the job. So I think you might as well. I've heard from various, like my position that I was applying for had like a salary range that was published. So I just asked for the highest in that salary range. And I think that's a good way to go. And if there's no salary range, then I think asking, like having a network and asking people who have similar jobs, what they think, or just taking whatever number they give you, increasing it by 5 or 10%. I truly don't think it can hurt. And yeah, you might as well.
Yeah, it's a great question. I used to work in the private sector before going to the public sector, and like I was just so ready to negotiate my salary when I got this job. And then I was told I couldn't do that because it's a public job and we have a union contract, and the union contract determines how you do this. And so then I was just told we can't do that. So
I tried to negotiate my salary when I started, but they all entry levels at the time started with the same salary. So that's just how they did it at the time at Bar Engineering. And now thinking back on it, because how the organization is structured is that even internally at Bar, I still have to get my own work. And so if I have, let's say like a lower billing rate, it actually makes me a little bit more marketable internally. So starting out as somebody who is entry level, that can be advantageous then. So.
Anything else you want to share about your time in the program, or?
Say enjoy the time. I miss the research. I miss being here and like if you can, I know there's tough times, but just try to soak it up as much as you can. You know, this is like a once in a lifetime kind of place that you're at. So
I want to echo that because as much as stressed as you are right now writing your thesis or doing your research, this truly is a beautiful time in your life that I think you'll always remember. And I just, driving in here in this campus, it brings me so many good memories, and it's just amazing, an amazing experience.
Well, let's wrap it up there. Thank you guys so much for spending time with us today. Appreciate it. If people want to follow up, if they see more commonalities, are you guys okay with passing contact information out? You're in.
And then LinkedIn too, like feel free to, network on LinkedIn, yeah.
Thank you. Guys.
Nice. It's fun. Differences.
Yep.
Your career.